The first time she told me to be quiet, it wasn't about the noise. Her voice came low, almost warm enough to touch. "Silence is golden," she said. But the way her eyes lingered on me, I knew she didn't mean for me to stop breathing. I was shelving books that afternoon. Philosophy section, late light spilling through the tall windows. The library was half empty, the kind of quiet that hums in your chest. I saw her before I heard her. She moved between aisles like she belonged to the quiet. Mid-40s, dark sweater, a pencil tucked behind one ear. She didn't glance around much. She didn't have to. The space bent around her, respectful. Everyone called her Ms. Hale. I only ever thought of her as her. When she spoke, it was never loud, just steady. She had this habit of pressing her lips together after finishing a sentence, like she was keeping the rest of her thoughts to herself. I'd been working there for 3 months. She'd been there for 20 years. She was the kind of person who never seemed rushed, even when the printer jammed or someone asked where the bathroom was for the 3rd time. But that afternoon, she brushed past me to reach for a book. Letters to a Young Poet, and I swear her sleeve grazed my hand. Just a second. Nothing deliberate. Still, my whole body went too still. "Excuse me," she murmured. Her tone was polite, practiced, but something in her pause after said more than it should have. I nodded, trying to look normal, like I wasn't memorizing the faint scent of her paper, rain, and something faintly floral. She slipped the book from the shelf, eyes down, but her mouth had the smallest, almost invisible curve. "You like Rilke?" I asked. Her eyes lifted. "You read him?" "Trying to." She smiled, quick, real, gone too soon. "Then don't try," she said softly. "He doesn't like effort. Just let it happen." She turned away, and I should have gone back to work. But I didn't. I watched the way the light touched her hair, the soft line of her neck as she bent to read. Every second felt longer than it should. She looked up once, caught me watching, and for a heartbeat, neither of us looked away. It wasn't some electric movie stare. It was quieter, the kind that made you aware of your own breathing. She blinked first, breaking it but not with discomfort. More like she was reminding herself she shouldn't have looked back. After that, I found reasons to stay late. Shelving returns, sorting archives. She didn't call me out on it. If anything, she started lingering too. Asking about my classes, recommending books, her tone careful but her eyes not. There was always that space between us, wide enough to call it proper, close enough to feel every breath that crossed it. One evening, just before closing, she handed me a stack of old poetry journals. "Take these home," she said. "They're being replaced. Might as well go to someone who'll actually read them." Our fingers brushed when I took them. Not a full touch, just the edge of contact. But the sound of it was louder than anything else in the room. She didn't move right away. Neither did I. And then she whispered, almost like she wasn't talking to me at all. "You should go before it gets too late." But she didn't step back. The library clock ticked. My heart kept time. And just as I opened my mouth, to thank her, or ask her something, I don't even know what, the front door creaked open. A voice called out, "Ms. Hale." She blinked, like waking up from something, and pulled her hand away. "Go on," she said, quieter this time. "We'll talk later." Her eyes lingered, then dropped. And for the first time, silence didn't feel golden at all. The next week, she started avoiding me. At least that's what it looked like. No more lingering in the aisles. No more quiet smiles when our eyes met across the desk. Just polite nods, clipped sentences, and the faintest scent of her perfume fading down the hall before I could say a word. It shouldn't have bothered me. I was a part-time clerk. She was my supervisor. But every time I saw her hand reach for the return bin, or heard the steady click of her heels behind the circulation desk, I felt that same pull, like I'd heard her whisper my name in a language only we understood. On Thursday, she finally spoke to me again. "Could you help me move some boxes from the archive room?" Her tone was calm, but her hands, always so still, fidgeted with her pen cap. The archive room was dim and airless, dust floating through strips of light. We worked in silence, stacking boxes, our arms brushing now and then. Each accidental touch felt deliberate. My pulse was too loud in the quiet. At one point, she bent to pick up a folder, and a strand of hair slipped from her bun. Without thinking, I said, "You missed one." She looked up, smiling faintly, tucking it back. Getting older means missing more than I used to. Something in her tone, half humor, half truth, stuck in my chest. She must have seen it on my face, because she added quickly, "You'll understand someday." I think I already do. Her eyes met mine then, steady, curious, a second too long. Then she looked away. She was the kind of woman who carried silence like armor. The kind who'd learned not to expect anything lasting. I didn't know all her stories, but the way she paused before laughing, the way her wedding band was absent but the faint pale line remained. I knew enough. And me? I was 24, too young to know what to do with a woman like her. Too old to pretend it was nothing. We finished moving the last box. She brushed the dust from her hands and sighed. "You should be out with friends, not stuck here helping me." "I don't mind," I said. "Besides, you make the hours go faster." That made her still. She turned toward me, her lips parting like she might answer, but didn't. Instead, she stepped closer, reached out to dust something off my shoulder. Her fingers lingered, just barely. I could feel the warmth of her through my shirt. She noticed me watching her hand and froze, caught halfway between retreat and touch. Then softly, "You shouldn't look at me like that." "Like what?" Her breath brushed against my cheek when she spoke again. "Like you're waiting for me to forget who I am." Neither of us moved. The air between us felt heavy, the kind of silence that vibrates. Then, from somewhere outside, the clock struck 6. The sound startled her. She stepped back, almost too quickly. "I'll finish up here," she said, voice low. I hesitated, then nodded. But as I turned to leave, her hand caught my sleeve for just a heartbeat. Firm, real, human. "Thank you," she whispered. It wasn't about the boxes. And when she let go, I felt it like she'd left something burning in my skin. Friday evening, the library was closing, rain pressing against the tall windows. Only 2 lights glowed. One at her desk, one near the return counter where I was pretending to organize forms I'd already sorted twice. She looked tired, sleeves rolled, hair slightly undone in a way that didn't look like her. The rain made her skin glow faintly under the warm light. She caught me watching once, maybe twice. The third time, she didn't look away. "You're still here?" she asked finally. "Just finishing up," I said. She gave a soft laugh, one that didn't reach her eyes. "You say that every night." I took a breath. "Maybe I just like being here when it's quiet." Her pen froze mid-note. The quiet stretched. She didn't need to ask what I really meant. After a moment, she stood, gathering the last of her papers. "Help me lock up?" We moved through the aisles together, switching off lights, one row at a time. Shadows crept in behind us. At the end of the fiction section, she reached past me for the switch. Her arm brushed mine, warm, steady, too close to ignore. Neither of us moved right away. "Ms. Hale." "Don't," she whispered, almost like she was stopping herself too. "Just don't." Her voice trembled on the last word, so faint I barely caught it. And then footsteps. We both jumped back, almost guilty. The janitor appeared at the far end of the hall, mopping bucket in hand. "Didn't know anyone was still here," he said. She smiled too quickly. "Just locking up." He nodded and disappeared into another wing. But something in the air had changed. Her breathing was uneven. Mine wasn't much better. When the last light flicked off, she turned toward me, face half in shadow. "You should go before it starts pouring harder." I nodded but didn't move. "Are you okay?" Her eyes met mine, sharp, vulnerable, like she'd been asked that too many times and never knew how to answer it. "I'm fine," she said. "This just can't look like something it isn't." "Maybe it already is," I said before I could stop myself. That stopped her cold. Her jaw tightened, but her eyes didn't leave me. "You don't know what you're saying." "Then tell me." Her lips parted, a small shake of the head. She stepped closer instead, close enough that I could see the faint lines near her mouth, the small scar on her chin, the way her pulse moved just under her collarbone. "You're too young to carry my kind of mistake," she whispered. "And you're too kind to keep pretending it'd be one." The rain outside broke louder against the glass. We stood there, neither giving in, neither leaving. The distance between us was measured in breath: 1, 2, 3. Her hand lifted halfway, hesitated near my chest, then dropped. A thunderclap shook the window. She startled forward, just enough that our foreheads brushed. Her breath caught. Then a phone buzzed on her desk, splitting the silence. She pulled back fast, eyes darting toward the sound. "It's late," she said, voice barely holding. But when I turned to go, her fingers brushed my wrist. A fleeting, desperate anchor. "Wait," she murmured. It wasn't enough to stop me, but it was enough to make sure I'd come back. The storm hadn't stopped by morning. It only deepened: gray light, slick streets, the library quiet except for the soft hum of the heater. She came in late, damp hair clinging to her neck, her coat darker at the shoulders where the rain had caught her. When she saw me behind the desk, her steps faltered. "You're here early," she said, voice low, unreadable. "Couldn't sleep," I admitted. She hesitated, set her bag down, and for a long moment neither of us said anything. The air between us felt fragile, like one wrong word might shatter it completely. I broke first. "You didn't answer last night." Her eyes flicked to mine, then away. I didn't know what to say. "Then say anything," she sighed, brushing damp hair behind her ear. "You think this is simple. It's not. I've made mistakes before. I hurt people who didn't deserve it. I'm not them." "That's exactly what they said," she whispered, almost to herself. She turned, walking toward the back shelves, and I followed without meaning to. "Why do you keep running from this?" I asked softer than I meant to. She stopped between the tall stacks, the light barely reaching her face. "Because I can't afford to be the reason someone your age ruins his life chasing something that can't last." I stepped closer. "What if I already started?" She turned sharply, and suddenly we were too close. Her breath hitched, our reflections overlapping in the glass behind her. "Don't," she said again, but this time her voice broke halfway through. I reached up, brushed a loose strand of hair from her cheek. She froze, eyes closing just for a heartbeat, the smallest surrender. Her skin was cool from the rain. "Tell me to stop," I said quietly. She didn't. The silence was louder than the storm outside. Her fingers lifted, almost like she was about to push me away, but instead found the edge of my shirt, resting there, not moving. "This isn't fair," she breathed. "Then make it fair. Just tell me what you want." She looked up, eyes wet but not from tears, something heavier, older. "I want," she started, then stopped, shaking her head. I leaned in, close enough that my words brushed her skin. "Say it." Her lips parted, her voice barely audible. "You make me forget how quiet my life is." Something in me broke open. My hand slid along her jaw, thumb tracing the corner of her mouth. She didn't flinch. "You think I don't feel it too?" she whispered. Her voice was trembling now. Not fear, not regret, just raw. "Every time you walk in here, I forget what's right." The air tightened around us. Her hand pressed against my chest, not pushing, not pulling, just there. We stood suspended, breath mingling, hearts stuttering out of sync. And then the door creaked open. Her body stiffened. A man's voice drifted in. "Ms. Hale? You left your phone at the front." The sound was enough to break the spell, but not the closeness. Her forehead leaned into mine for half a second. Eyes closed, a whisper against my skin. "This can't happen?" Her breath trembled. "But if you stay another second, it will." The next day, she didn't come in. No message, no warning, just her desk. Empty, her mug half full, the faint scent of her perfume still hanging in the air. By noon, I was pacing behind the counter, pretending to sort returns I couldn't see. Every second stretched longer, like the silence was daring me to notice what wasn't there. When she finally walked in, hours later, she looked different. Paler, eyes rimmed with sleeplessness. She didn't look at me when she passed, just dropped a folder on the desk, her movements too careful. "You should have told me," she said quietly. I froze. "Told you what?" Her eyes lifted then, sharp and unreadable. "About the application." "What application?" "The one you sent in for the permanent position. I heard from the board this morning." I blinked, trying to keep up. "That's good news, isn't it?" "Good news." She gave a small, bitter laugh. "You didn't think they'd tell me you used my name as a reference?" "I didn't mean I thought that they wouldn't ask me about you," she cut in, her voice breaking through the quiet like glass. She stepped closer, enough for me to see how her hands trembled. "They asked if we were—" She stopped, lowering her gaze. "If we were close." The word hung there between us. "What did you tell them?" I asked, barely above a whisper. She hesitated. "I said no." I felt it, a sharp, invisible pull in my chest. "You lied." "I protected you," she said, eyes flashing. "You don't understand what they'd assume. I could lose this job and you—" "I never asked you to protect me," I said, stepping closer. "Then what do you want from me?" she snapped, her voice shaking. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she turned away, pressing her palm against the edge of the desk, shoulders tight. "I saw the message," she said softly. "What message?" "On your phone. The one from your friend." Her tone dropped to almost nothing. "You told him about me." My breath caught. "You read that?" Her face went still, like she hated herself for it. "I didn't mean to. Your phone was on the counter. I saw my name." I swallowed. "And now," her voice cracked, "now I don't know who I am to you. A story? Something to tell your friends." I stepped toward her, slow. "You're not a story." She turned sharply and we were face to face. Too close again, as always. "Then what am I?" I didn't answer. I just reached out. Instinct, not thought, brushed my hand against hers. Her breath shuddered, and she didn't pull away. For a long, fragile second, we just stood there, guilt and want tangled in the same heartbeat. Then, softer, "If anyone finds out," she whispered, "we both lose everything." Her fingers tightened around mine anyway, and for the first time, she didn't let go. The rain had stopped, but the world still looked soaked in gray, the kind of day where everything felt suspended, neither ending nor beginning. She stood by the tall window in the reading room, the late light cutting across her face. I didn't mean to go in. I told myself I wouldn't, but I did. She didn't turn when she heard the door close. "I thought you might not come back," she said, voice steady but too quiet. "I wasn't sure I should." Neither was I. Silence pressed between us, thick as the air after a storm. I stepped closer. Not too close, just enough for her reflection to catch mine in the glass. "They offered me the job," I said finally. She nodded slowly. "I know. They told me this morning. And you?" "I told them you'd be good at it." Her tone was calm, but her hands, folded in front of her, betrayed her. The smallest tremor. "After everything?" I asked. "That's exactly why," she said. "You shouldn't lose something real because of me." She turned then, and the space between us vanished to a breath. Her eyes were tired, but not cold. "You have a chance to start something new. Don't let me be the reason you stay stuck here." I shook my head. "That's not what this is." "Then what is it?" I didn't answer. I just reached out, gently brushing my thumb along the side of her hand. The contact was small, almost nothing, but it unraveled something in both of us. Her breath hitched. "You shouldn't. Tell me to stop." She didn't. The clock ticked somewhere far away, but neither of us heard it. I stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her body through the air itself. "I've been trying to forget this," she whispered. "Every night. Every time you look at me like that. Then stop trying." Her eyes glistened, and she let out a sound. Not quite a laugh, not quite a sob. "You don't understand what this would cost." "I do." I said, voice shaking. I'd lose the job. Maybe more. But I'd still have this. She closed her eyes, her forehead brushing mine. You don't even know what this is. Maybe not. But I know what it isn't. It isn't nothing. A long, trembling silence. Her fingers found my collar. Not pulling, just holding. You're too young, she murmured. And you're too scared. Her breath broke against my lips. One heartbeat away, everything waiting. Then she pulled back, just enough for air to slip between us. I can't, she said. Not like this. The words hurt more than I expected. But there was no anger, just understanding, raw, quiet, full. I'll go, I said. She nodded, blinking hard. I know. At the door, I looked back. She stood where I left her, hand pressed to her heart like she was keeping it still. And for the first time, I saw it. Not distance, not regret, but peace. We both knew the silence had said more than any kiss ever could point. 2 weeks passed before I saw her again. The library felt hollow without her. Too bright, too quiet, like someone had turned the volume down on the world. I told myself I'd moved on, that I was fine, that it was better this way. But every time the door opened, I still looked up. When she finally came back, it was a Tuesday, ordinary, slow. She walked in like she always did, coat folded over her arm, hair pinned up but loose enough for a few strands to fall free. Our eyes met across the room, and suddenly all the noise in my head stopped. She smiled, small, tired, real. I heard you took the job. I did. I'm glad, she said, stepping closer. You deserve it. There was no awkwardness, no unfinished sentence waiting to trip us. Just the two of us, standing in the soft light of an ordinary morning, trying to figure out how to exist in the same space again. I handed her a stack of returned books. You still forget your coffee mug here, I said, smiling a little. She glanced down, saw it waiting on the corner of the desk. Some habits die hard. We both laughed. Quiet, familiar, like nothing had broken after all. Then came the silence, but not the tense kind anymore. Just the kind that holds warmth instead of weight. I kept thinking about what you said, she admitted, her voice softer now. About this not being nothing. I took a breath. And her eyes lifted to mine. And maybe I was scared of what it was. Something in me eased, slow and deep. I stepped closer, close enough to smell her perfume again. Faint and familiar. You don't have to be scared. She looked up at me for a long time, then finally said, maybe we both don't. For a heartbeat we stood there, so close our hands brushed. She didn't pull away. I didn't either. Her fingers slid into mine, tentative at first, then steady. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some grand confession. Just her hand in mine, simple, deliberate enough. I don't know what happens next, she whispered. Neither do I said. But we don't have to know yet. The light shifted across her face. She smiled again, smaller this time, but it reached her eyes. She leaned in, just enough to rest her forehead against mine. The kind of touch that feels like an answer. Outside, the world moved on, students walking past, buses groaning at the curb. But inside, everything felt still, like the story had been waiting for this exact moment to breathe. When she finally pulled back, her voice was barely a whisper. Silence isn't so golden after all. I smiled. Not when you're in it. Her laugh was soft, her hand still warm in mine. And in that quiet, imperfect peace, it felt like both of us had finally learned how to stop running from the noise inside our own hearts. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?